The first explosion wasn't the one that changed Sergeant Ava Mitchell's life. It was the silence that came afterward. 1 second, the convoy thundered through the narrow mountain pass outside Kunar province. The next, the lead mystery app vanished inside a wall of fire. The blast shook the valley hard enough to send rocks tumbling from the cliffs above. Every radio erupted at once. Contact left! IED! Medic! Drivers down! Ava slammed her shoulder into the armored door as the vehicle skidded sideways through dust and debris. "Everybody move!" she shouted. She was 36 years old, a U.S. Army Staff Sergeant, 12 years in uniform, 3 deployments, 1 Silver Star, and a reputation for bringing soldiers home. Not because she was lucky, because she never stopped thinking, even when everyone else panicked. Especially then. Machine gun fire suddenly erupted from the ridgeline. Rounds hammered against the armored hull, the windshield spiderwebbed. Their driver fought the steering wheel, as another explosion sent dirt raining across the convoy. "Ambush!" someone yelled. Ava grabbed her radio. "Viking 6, this is Viking 2. We've got multiple enemy positions on the western ridge. Lead vehicle disabled." Static. Then, nothing. The mountain walls were blocking communications. Exactly what the insurgents had planned. Specialist Noah Brooks looked over from the passenger seat. "What now, Sarge?" Ava looked through the cracked windshield. The convoy was trapped. The burning lead vehicle blocked the road ahead. A destroyed cargo truck blocked the road behind. High cliffs on both sides. Perfect kill zone. She'd seen diagrams of ambushes like this at Fort Benning years earlier. Seeing one unfold in real life was something else entirely. Another burst of gunfire slammed into the vehicle. Corporal Ethan Reyes cried out, "My arm!" Blood soaked through his sleeve almost instantly. Ava crawled across the floor. "Ramirez, tourniquet! It's Reyes! I know who he is." She tightened the tourniquet herself. Reyes gritted his teeth. "Don't let me slow you down." Ava looked him directly in the eyes. "You've been watching too many war movies." Despite the gunfire, Reyes managed a weak smile. "You don't get to die today." Outside, chaos. Smoke swallowed half the convoy. A Humvee burned fiercely 30 yards ahead. One soldier dragged another behind a concrete drainage wall while bullets kicked up dirt around them. Someone screamed for a medic. Someone else screamed for ammunition. The radio suddenly crackled back to life. "King 2, copy. Can anyone hear?" Static again. Ava climbed into the turret position. Bullets snapped overhead. She ignored them. Her binoculars swept across the ridgeline. Movement. At least 12 enemy fighters, maybe more. All firing downhill. She immediately understood their objective. They weren't trying to destroy the convoy. They were trying to pin it down long enough for reinforcements to arrive. Time was now the enemy. Noah climbed beside her. "We've got wounded." "I know. We need air support." "I know. The radio's dead." "I know." He stopped talking, because he recognized the look on her face. She had an idea. He just wasn't going to like it. Ava climbed down. She unfolded a weathered topographical map across the hood of the Miserap. Her finger traced the valley, then stopped. Nearly 800 yards behind enemy lines sat an abandoned communications relay station. Old, damaged, but elevated. High enough to establish satellite contact. If someone reached it, they could call in air support. Noah studied the map. "You can't be serious." Ava didn't answer immediately. Instead, she looked around at her squad. Reyes was losing blood. Private Mason Chen was barely 20 years old and trying desperately to stop his hands from shaking while reloading magazines. Corporal Lisa Grant was comforting the convoy's terrified interpreter. Every face looked to her, waiting, trusting. Ava folded the map. "There isn't another option." Noah lowered his voice. "The relay station is behind their lines." "I know. Nobody makes that run." She quietly checked her rifle. "They don't." Noah stared at her. "No." She inserted a fresh magazine. "You've got 2 wounded." "No. You've got soldiers who still have families waiting." His voice hardened. "And so do you." For the first time all morning, Ava hesitated. She reached into the small pocket sewn inside her body armor. A folded photograph, her 10-year-old daughter, Emma. Missing front tooth, messy blonde hair, holding a homemade sign that read, "Come home safe, Mom." Ava smiled for exactly 1 second, then she slipped the picture back inside her vest. "I intend to." Noah shook his head. "You know what this mission is?" She met his eyes. "Yes. It's a one-way trip." She looked past him, toward the burning convoy, toward the soldiers depending on her. Then she quietly said the words every member of the squad would remember for the rest of their lives. "If one of us has to stay behind, it's going to be me." Before anyone could argue, Sergeant Ava Mitchell stepped out from behind the armored vehicle and sprinted straight toward the enemy lines. The first 50 yards were the easiest. Not because they were safe, because adrenaline hadn't given fear time to catch up. Sergeant Ava Mitchell ran low through the dust, every stride measured, every breath controlled. Bullets snapped past her ears, disappearing into the rocks behind. She didn't look back. Looking back got people killed. Another burst of machine gun fire stitched across the dirt in front of her. She dove behind a boulder just as fragments of stone exploded across her helmet. Her radio crackled. "Ava, Noah, you can still come back." She caught her breath before answering. "If I come back now, none of us are getting out." Silence. Then Noah spoke quietly. "Don't you dare die on me." Ava smiled despite herself. "I'll add it to today's to-do list." The radio went silent again. She checked the map in her mind. 300 yards to the dry creek bed. Another 200 through a cluster of abandoned farming terraces. Then the climb. The relay station sat on top of the ridge like the skeleton of another war. If she reached it, they lived. If she didn't, the convoy became a graveyard. Back at the convoy, Noah watched her disappear into the smoke. Private Mason Chen stared after her. "She's really doing it," no one answered. Because everyone knew exactly what it meant. Lisa Grant slammed another magazine into her rifle. "We're buying her time." The squad immediately increased suppressive fire. Rounds poured toward the western ridge. Enemy fighters ducked behind rocks. For a brief moment, the pressure on Ava eased. Then one insurgent spotted her. He shouted something in Pashto. Within seconds, half the ridge shifted its fire toward the lone soldier crossing the valley. Noah cursed. "They've seen her." Ava reached the dry creek bed and threw herself into it. Dust filled her lungs. She stayed still. Listened. Boots. Voices. Close. Too close. She slowly raised her head. 4 enemy fighters were moving downhill. Searching, not randomly, searching for her. She lowered herself again. Her heartbeat slowed. Training took over. She remembered something her first platoon sergeant had told her years earlier. The best firefight is the one you never have. She unclipped a smoke grenade, pulled the pin, counted 1, 2, 3. She threw it 30 yards to her left. A thick wall of gray smoke erupted. Immediately, the enemy rushed toward it. Ava went the opposite direction. By the time they realized the trick, she was already climbing the terraces. Back at the convoy, things were getting worse. Reyes's bandages were soaked through. The medic checked him again. "We need a helicopter." "I know. He won't make another hour." Noah looked toward the mountains. "She'll make the call." He said it with confidence. But inside, he wasn't sure anymore. Halfway up the ridge, Ava's left boot slipped on loose gravel. She crashed hard against the rocks. Pain shot through her knee. She bit her lip to stop herself from crying out. Then she heard it. Metal. Someone chambering around. She froze. A shadow appeared above her. One enemy fighter. Barely 20 feet away. Their eyes met at the exact same moment. Neither moved. Then both reacted. He raised his rifle. Ava rolled sideways as shots cracked overhead. She fired twice. The young fighter collapsed behind the rocks. Silence returned. Ava remained perfectly still, waiting. No movement, no more voices. She hated every second of it. Every life taken left a mark. Even when there had been no choice. She whispered quietly, "I'm sorry." Then she kept climbing. 40 minutes after leaving the convoy, the abandoned communications relay finally came into view. A rusted steel tower leaned against the mountainside. Most of the building had collapsed years earlier. Windows shattered, roof partially gone. It looked abandoned. Exactly the kind of place nobody would waste ammunition destroying. Ava stepped inside. Broken equipment covered the floor. Dust lay inches thick across old radio consoles. She searched desperately. Nothing. Nothing. Then, one emergency satellite terminal. Ancient, damaged, but intact. Hope surged through her. She dropped to her knees and connected the emergency battery pack from her rucksack. Nothing. She checked the cables. One wire had snapped. No. She searched the room, drawers, cabinets, toolboxes. Finally, electrical tape. A pair of wire cutters. Working as fast as she could, she stripped the damaged cable and twisted the copper together. Her fingers shook, not from fear, from urgency. She wrapped the repair tightly. Pressed the power button. For 3 agonizing seconds, nothing happened. Then, a single green light blinked. Once, twice, the screen flickered to life. Ava grabbed the microphone. "This is U.S. Army Sergeant Ava Mitchell, requesting immediate close air support." Only static answered. Her heart sank. Then, a calm voice broke through. "Unidentified station, this is Falcon Control. Repeat your transmission." Relief washed over her. "This is Sergeant Ava Mitchell, Viking 2, convoy ambushed in Kunar Province. Multiple wounded. Enemy strength approximately 15 to 20 fighters. Request immediate air support and medical evacuation." The controller's voice sharpened instantly. "Coordinates confirmed. We have them." Aircraft are 12 minutes out. 12 minutes. It sounded like forever, but it was the first good news anyone had heard all morning. Then Ava heard something behind her. The unmistakable click of a rifle being cocked. The sound was unmistakable. Metal against metal, a rifle being chambered. Ava slowly closed her eyes. Not out of fear, out of calculation. Whoever stood behind her had chosen not to shoot immediately. That meant they wanted something. She slowly raised both hands. "I know you're there." Silence. Then a voice answered, in English. "Turn around." Ava frowned. The accent wasn't American, but it wasn't local either. She turned slowly. A man stood 10 feet away, mid-30s, trimmed beard, civilian clothes beneath a tactical vest. An AK-47 rested steadily against his shoulder. Unlike the fighters she'd encountered below, his eyes were calm, professional. He wasn't a frightened insurgent, he was a leader. He glanced at the satellite terminal. "So, you fixed it." Ava didn't answer. He smiled faintly. "I've been trying to repair that radio for months." His English was almost perfect. "You were in the military," Ava said. It wasn't a question. The man gave a slow nod. "Once." "Whose military?" He ignored the question. Instead, he looked at the blinking satellite terminal. "You've already called them." "Yes. They'll be here soon." "They will." He sighed almost regretfully. "That's unfortunate." Outside, the distant rumble of gunfire continued echoing through the valley. The convoy was still holding, but barely. The man stepped closer. "My name is Kareem." Ava remained silent. "You don't remember me. I've never seen you before." "No, you haven't. But I have seen you." Her grip tightened on her rifle. "When?" Kareem looked out through the broken window, toward the mountains. 3 years ago. Helmand Province. Ava searched her memory. "Nothing." He continued. "My younger brother was trapped beneath a collapsed building." She remembered. Not the name. The mission. A village struck during heavy fighting. Civilians buried beneath rubble. She and her squad had spent 12 straight hours digging people out. Children, mothers, old men, anyone they could reach. Kareem smiled sadly. "You carried him yourself." Ava blinked. "The little boy, with the broken leg." He nodded. "You gave him your own water." The memory returned all at once. A frightened 8-year-old boy refusing to let go of her sleeve. She had stayed with him until the medevac helicopter arrived. "You remember now." "I do." Kareem lowered his rifle. "My brother lived." Ava didn't understand. "If that's true, why are you here?" His smile disappeared. "Because war changes everyone. My brother survived. My parents did not. They were killed 6 months later." Neither spoke for several seconds. Finally, Kareem said quietly, "You saved the person you could. You couldn't save everyone." Ava looked directly at him. "No, I couldn't." He nodded once. "I know." Outside, the distant roar of jet engines rolled across the mountains. Both of them heard it. Ava's heart lifted. Kareem looked toward the sky. They came quickly. They always do. He gave a quiet laugh. "Not always." The sound of aircraft grew louder. Kareem stepped away from the doorway. "You should leave." Ava frowned. "What?" "You have wounded soldiers waiting." "You aren't stopping me?" He looked at her for a long moment. 3 years ago, you carried my brother through enemy fire. Today, I repay that debt." Ava couldn't believe what she was hearing. "You'll be killed." Kareem looked toward the valley below. "Perhaps. But today is not about war. It's about honor." Before Ava could speak again, the first pair of American attack helicopters thundered over the ridge. The entire mountain shook beneath their rotors. Seconds later, precision rockets slammed into enemy fighting positions along the western cliffs. Explosions ripped across the ridgeline. Machine gun fire stopped almost instantly. The ambush was collapsing. Ava grabbed her radio. "Viking 2 to convoy." Noah answered immediately. "Sarge, we've got air support." "We know. You beautiful, stubborn idiot." She laughed for the first time all day. "How are my people?" "Still alive." "Barely." "I'm coming back." She turned toward Kareem. The room was empty. The rifle was gone. The man had disappeared into the mountains as quietly as he had appeared. Only one thing remained. On the dusty floor beside the repaired satellite terminal lay a small, faded photograph. It showed a frightened little boy in a hospital bed, holding the hand of a young American soldier. That soldier was Ava. Ava slipped the photograph into the inside pocket of her vest. There would be time to think about Kareem later. Right now, her squad was still trapped. She slung her rifle across her shoulder and started down the mountainside. The helicopters circled overhead like guardian angels. Their rotors echoed through the valley as precision fire forced the remaining enemy fighters into retreat. For the first time in nearly 2 hours, the convoy wasn't fighting to survive. It was fighting to hold. Halfway down the ridge, Ava's radio crackled. Viking 2, this is Falcon 1. Go ahead. We've got multiple heat signatures moving east. Enemy retreating. Ava slowed. Retreating? The pilot's voice sharpened. No. They're heading toward your convoy. She stopped cold. What? We believe they're trying to bypass us. They're moving through the ravine. Ava unfolded the map while jogging. There it was. A narrow canyon running behind the convoy, completely hidden from the helicopters. If the enemy reached it, they'd attack from the rear. Her stomach tightened. Noah, I'm here. Listen carefully. They're coming behind you. Silence. Then, that route wasn't on the map. It is now. Back at the convoy, Noah immediately repositioned the squad. Grant, rear security. Chen, move the wounded behind the engine. Reyes struggled to sit up despite his injuries. Give me my rifle. The medic pushed him back down. You're done fighting. Reyes glared at him. My captain isn't. Ava reached the entrance to the ravine. Fresh footprints, dozens. She crouched beside them. At least 15 fighters, maybe more. She looked at the valley below. Her squad couldn't see this approach, neither could the helicopters. Then she noticed something else. A collapsed rock shelf hanging over the narrow canyon. One good explosion, and the entire passage would be buried. She searched her pack. 2 fragmentation grenades. 1 block of demolition explosive. Left over from engineering support. Not enough for a planned demolition. Maybe enough for desperation. She planted the explosive beneath the cracked rock face. Her hands moved automatically. Years of training, no wasted motion. She attached the detonator, checked the timer. 3 minutes. She keyed her radio. Noah, what is it? I'm collapsing the ravine. What? You'll have about 30 seconds after you hear the blast. To do what? Run. A long pause followed, then Noah understood. Ava, if that rock doesn't fall, they'll reach you. And if it does? She looked up at the unstable cliff. It'll bury the entire canyon. His voice became almost pleading. Get out of there. I'll try. You promise? Ava smiled sadly. I've learned not to make promises I can't keep. She disconnected the radio. The first enemy fighters appeared at the opposite end of the canyon, less than 200 yards away. They hadn't seen her yet. Ava armed the timer. 02:59. She turned, started climbing. Loose rocks slid beneath her boots. Her injured shoulder screamed with every movement. 0211 gunfire erupted behind her. They had spotted her. Bullets shattered stone inches from her head. She climbed faster. 0134. The ledge was still 20 feet above. Too far, too steep. She reached for another handhold. The rock snapped. Ava fell hard against the cliffside. Pain exploded through her ribs. She gasped for air. Below, the fighters were closing fast. 0058. She forced herself upright. 1 step, then another. Blood trickled down her forehead into her eyes. She wiped it away with the back of her glove. 0021. She threw herself over the top of the ridge. Rolled across loose gravel, covered her head. Then, the mountain exploded. The blast shook the valley. A deafening roar echoed for miles. Thousands of tons of rock crashed into the narrow canyon below. Dust swallowed everything. Trees bent from the shockwave. Even the helicopters banked sharply. When the dust finally began to settle, the ravine was gone, buried beneath an avalanche of stone. The enemy force had vanished with it. Back at the convoy, every soldier stared toward the collapsing mountainside. Noah's face turned white. Ava. No answer. He grabbed the radio again. Ava. Only static. Again. Ava. Nothing. His voice broke. Come on. The helicopters landed moments later. Medevac crews rushed toward the wounded. The battalion chief stepped off the lead aircraft. Where's Sergeant Mitchell? No one answered. Because no one knew. All they could see was the shattered mountainside, where Ava had disappeared beneath a cloud of dust and falling rock. The radio remained silent. No static. No breathing. Nothing. Noah lowered it slowly. Around him, the firefight was over. The helicopters had driven away the remaining enemy fighters. Medics loaded the wounded onto stretchers. The convoy had survived, but victory felt strangely empty, because the one person who had made it possible was missing. For the next 6 hours, Army engineers and combat rescue teams searched the collapsed ravine. They dug through shattered rock, twisted metal, broken trees. Every few minutes someone shouted. Then silence followed. As the Afghan sun disappeared behind the mountains, the battalion commander walked toward Noah. His face said everything before he spoke. We're suspending the search until first light. Noah looked at the mountain. No, we don't have enough daylight. I don't care. Sergeant Brooks. She's still out there. The commander placed a hand on his shoulder. I know. Noah closed his eyes. Ava had ordered him to protect the squad. For the first time, he hated following orders. 3 days later, the convoy returned to Bagram airfield. 23 soldiers stepped off the transport. 22 walked. One flag-draped transfer case waited quietly beside the runway. No one had recovered Ava's body. Only her helmet, her rifle, and the small satellite radio she had repaired. Military protocol listed her as missing in action, presumed killed. Noah couldn't bring himself to read the paperwork. Back home in Colorado, 10-year-old Ava Mitchell waited on the front porch wearing her favorite blue dress. She had made another sign. Just like before every deployment, "Welcome home, Mom." When the black army sedan stopped in front of the house, she knew, children always know. 2 officers stepped out. One carried a folded American flag. Emma looked past them, searching, waiting, hoping. Then she quietly lowered the sign. The funeral took place 2 weeks later at Fort Carson National Cemetery. Hundreds attended. Soldiers, veterans, firefighters, police officers, teachers from Emma's school. Neighbors who had never met Ava but had heard what she'd done. The battalion commander stepped to the podium. There are soldiers who follow orders. There are soldiers who inspire others. And then, he looked toward Emma. There are soldiers who redefine what courage means. He unfolded a citation. Staff Sergeant Ava Mitchell is hereby awarded the Distinguished Service Cross for extraordinary heroism beyond the call of duty. Emma accepted the medal with both hands. It felt impossibly heavy, almost too heavy for a 10-year-old girl. Life moved on, as it always does. Noah left the Army 2 years later. Reyes recovered from his wounds. Lisa Grant became a platoon sergeant. Every member of the squad carried something invisible home from that valley. Not guilt, gratitude, because every birthday they celebrated, every Christmas, every graduation, every ordinary Tuesday had been purchased by one woman's decision to stay behind. 7 years passed. Emma was 17, tall, confident, just like her mother. One autumn afternoon she stood before a wall at the National Infantry Museum. Thousands of names were engraved into polished black stone. She gently traced one with her fingertips. Staff Sergeant Ava Mitchell. "I made the soccer team," she whispered. "I wish you could have seen it." A voice behind her answered softly. "I think she did." Emma turned. An older man stood several feet away. Dark hair touched with gray. Kind eyes. A slight limp, he held an old photograph. The same faded photograph Ava had found inside the abandoned relay station. "You knew my mom?" He nodded. "My name is Kareem." Emma frowned. "My mother wrote about you." Kareem smiled sadly. Then she remembered. He handed Emma a weathered military notebook. "I've carried this for 7 years. It belongs to you." Emma opened it carefully. Inside was Ava's handwriting. Dozens of pages, mission notes, letters she had never mailed, thoughts she had never spoken aloud. Folded between 2 pages was one final letter addressed simply, "For Emma." Her hands trembled as she unfolded it. "My sweet girl, if you're reading this, then life didn't give us the ending we hoped for. I know you'll be angry. I know you'll wish I'd chosen differently. But I need you to understand something. A leader never asks someone else to pay a price she's unwilling to pay herself." The men and women beside me had children waiting for them too. Parents, spouses, dreams. I didn't stay behind because I loved you less. I stayed because I loved you enough to leave you a world where people still choose courage over fear. Don't spend your life mourning me. Spend it making someone else's life better. That's how heroes stay alive. Emma could no longer hold back the tears. She pressed the letter against her chest. Kareem quietly spoke. "The day your mother saved my little brother." She told him something. Emma looked up. "What?" Kareem smiled through tears. She said, "One act of kindness can outlive the person who gives it." He looked toward Ava's name on the memorial. "I spent the last 7 years proving her right." Emma reached out and hugged the man her mother had once saved. 2 lives, 2 continents, 1 decision. Forever connected. The following spring, Emma stood on another parade field, this time wearing an army uniform of her own. As she raised her right hand and took the oath of enlistment, Noah stood in the audience beside Reyes and Lisa. None of them spoke. They didn't have to. They all saw the same quiet determination in Emma's eyes. The ceremony ended. Emma walked over to them. Noah reached into his jacket pocket and handed her something wrapped in cloth. "What is it?" She unfolded it slowly. Inside was the old unit patch Ava had worn on the day of the ambush. Frayed, faded, still carrying traces of desert dust. Noah smiled. "Your mother once told us that courage isn't measured by the battles you survive." He gently placed the patch in Emma's hand. "It's measured by the lives that keep moving forward, because you refuse to quit." Emma looked toward the American flag, waving above the parade ground. Then she looked at the patch. Finally, she smiled. Not because the pain was gone, But because she understood something her mother had known all along. Sometimes the greatest heroes are remembered, not for the lives they took, but for the countless lives they chose to save. And in every soldier who came home to hug their children that day, a part of Staff Sergeant Ava Mitchell had come home too.